Thumb, 1887. The city swallowed by the desert in 1887. In the heart of the barren Namibian desert, a discovery was made that would forever change the landscape. Diamonds hidden beneath the shifting sands were unearthed, and with them the hope of unimaginable wealth. Kolmanskop, a tiny, isolated outpost, soon morphed into a bustling, luxurious mining town. What was once a forgotten stretch of sand became a glittering symbol of prosperity, its streets lined with grand buildings and its homes filled with imported European furnishings. The town grew at an astonishing rate. Overnight, it transformed from a modest settlement to a thriving community. Miners, traders, and families poured in, each hoping to stake their claim in the diamond-rich land. With state-of-the-art facilities, including a hospital, a power plant, and even a casino, Kolmanskop quickly became a marvel in the middle of nowhere. It seemed as if nothing could touch the city, its wealth and luxury untouched by the unforgiving desert surrounding it. But even in the midst of this unprecedented prosperity, there was an undercurrent of tension, an awareness that the very desert that had given birth to Kolmanskop's riches could also take it all away. The question loomed: how long could this desert oasis last? Could the city stand the test of time, or would it be swallowed by the same sands that had birthed it? As you continue watching, we will uncover the mystery behind the rise and fall of Kolmanskop. City built on diamonds became a ghost town, lost to the desert. If you're intrigued by this story, let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe to follow the journey of this fascinating tale. Kolmanskop was not just a mining town. It was a luxurious desert paradise. The wealth that poured into the city during its diamond rush transformed it into one of the most opulent towns of its time. Amidst the endless desert dunes, Kolmanskop was a striking anomaly, complete with lavish homes, grand dining rooms, and even a dance hall where miners and their families could briefly escape the harsh realities of the surrounding land. The houses were furnished with imported European goods, luxurious tapestries, fini woodwork, and crystal chandeliers. Inside, the streets were lined with imported Italian marble, and the walls were decorated with intricate frescoes. The town had everything that would make even the most sophisticated urbanites proud: electricity, running water, and even a hospital with a full-time doctor to attend to the needs of the workers and their families. Kolmanskop's residents, though living in one of the harshest environments on Earth, lived in what could only be described as extraordinary comfort. It was a life that many could only dream of, where access to modern amenities and luxuries was not a matter of convenience, but every design. Yet beneath the beauty and the gleam of the diamond industry, an undercurrent of harsh realities existed. The mining process was grueling and dangerous. And while the residents of Kolmanskop lived in luxury, their lives were often centered around the diamond trade, which came at an immense personal cost. For many miners, their hard work would be rewarded with diamonds, but for others, it would simply be a life of toil and fatigue. And so, even in the lap of luxury, there was a sense that something was missing. In the blink of an eye, Kolmanskop, once a bustling hub of wealth and luxury, fell silent. What was once a thriving town, filled with the hum of industry and the chatter of its wealthy residents, was suddenly abandoned. The reason for this dramatic shift isn't immediately clear after all. The diamond mines still held promise, and the wealth was flowing in. So why did Kolmanskop, in all its opulence, fall into ruin? Several factors contributed to the town's demise, but the most significant was the inevitable depletion of diamond deposits. As mining progressed, the once rich veins of diamonds grew thinner and less accessible. The easy riches that had poured into the town began to dwindle. The cost of extracting diamonds from deeper and more challenging areas of the mine increased, while the yield decreased. This slow decline in resources made it financially unviable for many to continue operating the mines. But it wasn't just the diminishing supply of diamonds that led to the town's fall. The First World War, along with the Great Depression, caused significant economic turmoil around the world. These global events dramatically affected the diamond market, leading to a collapse in demand. Kolmanskop, once a vibrant community of miners and their families, was suddenly left without the revenue to sustain its luxurious lifestyle. As the economy faltered and the diamond supply dried up, Kolmanskop's residents began to leave. One by one, they abandoned their grand homes, leaving behind their possessions, while the sand began to creep back in, filling the empty rooms and halls. The town that had once seemed invincible, bathed in the light of diamonds and wealth, was now nothing more than a fading memory, its streets empty and its buildings decaying. As Kolmanskop's wealth faded and its inhabitants left, the desert did what it does best. It took back what once belonged to it. Slowly but surely, the relentless winds of the Namib Desert began to reclaim the city. What was once a vibrant, bustling mining town became a ghost town, consumed by the very sand that had given it life. The sands crept into the buildings, filling rooms, choking hallways, and bearing the elaborate decorations that had once adorned the walls. It wasn't a sudden burial, but rather a slow and inevitable process, a gradual erasure of a human accomplishment by the forces of nature. Within a few years, Kolmanskop was swallowed by the desert, and the beautiful homes, grand dining halls, and ornate chandeliers were hidden beneath a blanket of sand. This reclamation of Kolmanskop by nature is a symbol of the unforgiving environment in which the city had been built. The desert had always been there, a vast, inhospitable space, and Kolmanskop, despite its opulence, was always just a temporary visitor. The encroaching sand made it impossible for the town to remain a viable settlement. Today, as we look at the remains of Kolmanskop, we are reminded of the powerful forces of nature that are beyond human control. Even the most prosperous cities, with all their wealth and technological advancements, cannot escape the ultimate rule of nature. The sand continues to creep in, and the once glorious buildings are now abandoned, silent monuments to a time long gone. The birth of Kolmanskop was inseparable from the diamond rush that swept across southern Africa in the late 19th century. The discovery of diamonds in the region was nothing short of revolutionary, and it brought waves of fortune seekers to the arid land, eager to stake their claim on the precious stones. For Kolmanskop, it was the catalyst that turned a barren desert into a thriving mining town almost overnight. The town's wealth was built on diamond stands of thousands of carats extracted from the earth beneath the Namibian sands. The discovery in 1908 near the settlement of Kolmanskop sparked a frenzied rush as miners dug into the earth with relentless determination. It was said that there were diamonds everywhere, buried deep within the desert, waiting to be found. This sudden surge in wealth led to the rapid growth of the town, attracting miners from all corners of the globe. Kolmanskop, in the early 1900s, seemed like an oasis in a desert. The town's miners were living in conditions that many could only dream of at the time, given the size of the diamonds they were extracting. There were grand dining rooms, lavish homes, and modern amenities that were considered extraordinary for a settlement in such a remote area. Kolmanskop became a symbol of wealth and luxury in a land where, just a few years earlier, nothing but sand and heat stretched 4 miles. However, the rapid growth of Kolmanskop was fueled not only by the excitement of discovering riches, but also by a highly organized and structured diamond industry. The town was more than just a group of miners. It was part of a larger system run by powerful diamond companies, which ensured that the wealth generated was carefully controlled. The town's residents were part of a carefully orchestrated economic system that focused on extracting every possible diamond from the land. While Kolmanskop's opulent buildings, grand dining halls, and imported European luxuries make it easy to picture a life of comfort for its residents, there was another side to this desert paradise. Behind the wealth and splendor, the silent workers, the miners, lived a much different reality. These were the men who toiled in the darkness, digging deep into the earth for diamonds, often at great personal cost. Their labor was essential to the city's success, but their lives were rarely acknowledged or celebrated. The miners worked under harsh conditions in the diamond mines, which were often deep and treacherous. They spent long hours in confined spaces, breathing in dust and facing the constant risk of accidents. Despite the wealth generated by their labor, the miners were not rewarded with the same luxuries that the town's upper class enjoyed. They lived in simple, functional quarters, far from the extravagant homes of the town's elite. The work was grueling and physically demanding. To extract diamonds from the ground, miners had to use a combination of picks, shovels, and dynamite to break through the hard rock. The process was slow and dangerous, and it took a toll on the miners' health. Respiratory diseases from the dust, injuries from accidents, and the mental strain of working in such an environment were common. Despite the hardships, many of the miners who worked in Kolmanskop were driven by the promise of a better life and opportunity to earn wealth in a town that seemed to be built on endless diamonds. However, the reality was much harsher. The men worked in conditions that were far from ideal, and many of them were forced to live in isolation, far from their families and homes. This duality, the wealth and luxury on one side, the grueling labor on the other, was at the heart of while the city's elite reveled in luxury, the silent workers, whose labor made it all possible, struggled to survive. Their sacrifices, though crucial to the town's prosperity, were largely forgotten as Kolmanskop's fame grew and the diamonds continued to flow. Kolmanskop's rapid rise to wealth and opulence may have seemed unshakable, but like so many golden eras, it was not built to last. The town's fortunes, once driven by a seemingly endless flow of diamonds, began to shift with the onset of global events that would alter the course of history. The First World War followed by the Great Depression, sent shockwaves through the global economy, and heavily dependent on the diamond trade, could not escape the impact. When the First World War broke out, many of Kolmanskop's workers were sent off to fight, disrupting the already delicate balance of the town. The mining operations slowed, and as the war stretched on, the diamond trade suffered. But the real blow came after the war ended. The global economy plunged into the Great Depression, leaving struggling to stay afloat. With the collapse of markets and the diamond industry faltering, demand for diamonds decreased significantly. And so too did the wealth that had once poured into the town. By the early 1930s, the town's mines, which had once seemed endless, were slowly being depleted. Kolmanskop's infrastructure, built on the riches of the diamond trade, could no longer sustain itself. The cost of maintaining the town's luxury homes and services became unmanageable as the diamond supply dwindled and the global economic crises deepened. The luxury that once defined Kolmanskop now felt like a distant dream, a relic of a time that had long passed. The impact of these global events was devastating. Many of the town's residents, no longer able to rely on the wealth generated by the diamond mines, packed up and left in search of a better life elsewhere. The once thriving community dwindled, and by the mid-1930s, Kolmanskop was effectively abandoned. What had been a bustling, opulent settlement in the heart of the desert was now a ghost town, slowly fading into the sand. But what led to the abandonment wasn't just the collapse of the diamond trade, it was the combination of global economic forces and the finite nature of the resources that had powered the town's success. Kolmanskop, like many boom towns before it, was ultimately a victim of the changing tides of history. What do you think was the collapse of Kolmanskop inevitable due to the outside forces of war and economic depression? As Kolmanskop faded into the desert sands, it left behind not only empty buildings and forgotten wealth, but also a rich tapestry of myths, rumors, and ghost stories. The idea of an abandoned city in the vast Namibian desert, teeming with life and now swallowed by nature, naturally invited tales of the supernatural. Over the years, these stories have evolved into legends, some dark, others more whimsical, but all capturing the imagination of those who visit the ruins. Today, the most persistent of these legends is the idea that Kolmanskop is haunted by the spirits of its past inhabitants. The town's sudden and mysterious abandonment has given rise to stories of restless souls who never left, still wandering the dusty halls and empty rooms, searching for the life they once knew. Some say that the sound of footsteps can be heard echoing in the empty corridors, and that the lights flicker on their own as if the past refuses to let go. Visitors and caretakers of the site have often reported a strange sense of unease when walking through the abandoned rooms, as if they are not alone. One of the most widely told stories is that of a young woman who worked as a nurse in the town's hospital. Legend has it that she died under mysterious circumstances, and now her spirit is said to linger in the hospital wing, forever waiting for patients who will never come. Her presence, according to some, is felt most strongly during the quiet hours of the night. Other stories revolve around the miners who once worked the diamond fields surrounding the town. Some claim that the spirits of those who died in the mines now haunt the area, restless and angry about the harsh conditions they endured. The ghosts of the miners are said to appear at dusk, lingering near the mine shafts, where the very earth that once gave them diamonds now holds their memories. But not all the stories surrounding Kolmanskop are dark. There are also tales of the town's early days when Kolmanskop was a thriving community, full of life and energy. Some say that during the height of its wealth, the streets of Kolmanskop were lined with music and laughter, and that on certain nights you can still hear faint echoes of a grand ball being held in the banquet hall, where the finest music played and guests danced beneath chandeliers that sparkled like diamonds. The myths and legends of Kolmanskop have helped keep the memory of the town alive, even as the sands continue to reclaim it. Today, the city's ruins attract not only tourists curious about the history of the abandoned town, but also those drawn to its eerie and mysterious aura. The legends add a layer of mystique to the town, making it more than just a historical city. It becomes a place where history, legend, and the supernatural collide. While Kolmanskop may have been forgotten by many for decades, its rediscovery in the late 20th century brought new life to the abandoned city. In the years following its decline, the Namibian government began to recognize the historical value of this site, and efforts were made to preserve and promote it as a tourist destination. What had once been a place of mystery and ruin was now being brought back to the world's attention, offering visitors a chance to walk through the remnants of a forgotten town, frozen in Chimi. The process of rediscovery began in the 1980s when efforts were made to conserve the crumbling buildings. The site was officially opened to the public in 1990, just as Namibia gained its independence from South Africa. As word spread, Kolmanskop became a popular stop for those visiting the Namib Desert, its hauntingly beautiful ruins offering a glimpse into a time of wealth and extravagance that now seemed impossible in such a remote and unforgiving location. Today, guided tours take visitors through the beautifully preserved rooms, where they can marvel at the still-standing remnants of Kolmanskop's once grand architecture, from the ornate light fixtures to the remnants of luxury furniture. The town's wealth is still visible, though now it is surrounded by the encroaching desert that has slowly, inexorably overtaken the town. The preserved homes, hospital, and even the mining operations give visitors a rare and hauntingly beautiful look into what life was like for the residents who once called Kolmanskop home. But Kolmanskop is not just a historical site, it has also become a symbol of the fragility of human ambition. As tourists walk through its empty halls and witness the slow destruction of the buildings, there's a sense of inevitability, a reminder that even the most prosperous towns can be lost to time and the forces of nature. Yet, in its rediscovery, Kolmanskop has found new purpose. It has become a place for reflection, a place where visitors can learn about the fleeting nature of wealth and the impermanence of human achievement. Kolmanskop's transformation from a forgotten ghost town to a thriving tourist attraction highlights the resilience of the human spirit. The town, though abandoned, continues to draw people from around the world who are fascinated by its history and mystery. In a way, the town is no longer just a place of loss, it is a place of discovery and remembrance, where the past is preserved for future generations to appreciate. Kolmanskop, now a silent witness to the ravages of time and nature, offers us more than just a glimpse into the past. It imparts valuable lessons that extend far beyond the boundaries of the Namibian desert. As the winds blow across the sand-filled remnants of the once thriving town, there are lessons to be learned about the nature of human ambition, the fleetingness of wealth, and the inexorable power of the natural world. At its peak, Kolmanskop was a monument to human ingenuity and prosperity. It was a city built on dreams of fortune, luxury, and success in a place that seemed inhospitable to life. But Kolmanskop's rise and fall reflect a deeper truth: the fragility of human accomplishments. The town, no matter how lavish or advanced, was still subject to the inevitable forces of nature, economics, and time. Diamonds, like all forms of wealth, are finite. What seemed to promise endless riches quickly became a reminder of the impermanence of human effort. Perhaps the most striking lesson Kolmanskop imparts is that nothing is permanent. The diamonds that brought fortune to the town were extracted, and as they ran dry, so did the town's ability to sustain itself. The same desert that birthed Kolmanskop's wealth eventually reclaimed it, just as nature reclaims all things no matter how grand they may seem. The ruins of Kolmanskop stand as a stark reminder that no matter how much wealth or progress we accumulate, we are ultimately at the mercy of forces beyond our control. Kolmanskop also speaks to the idea of human resilience and adaptation. While the town may have been lost to the desert, it is being preserved and celebrated today, and its story continues to be told. The people who built Kolmanskop were not simply miners and traders, they were dreamers, visionaries, and pioneers who sought to conquer the unforgiving desert. Their ambition, though short-lived, left behind something that still resonates with us today. In a way, Kolmanskop represents the desire to create something lasting in an ever-changing world. As we stand in the ruins of Kolmanskop, it becomes clear that the town is more than just a relic of a bygone era. It is a testament to the ambition of humanity, the consequences of unchecked wealth, and the importance of understanding our place in the world. The sands that swallow Kolmanskop now remind us that all things are temporary, but in their passing, they leave behind lessons for the future. What do you think Kolmanskop can teach us about ambition, wealth, and the power of nature? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this journey through history, don't forget to like and subscribe to join us for more fascinating stories.